Eva Fassing is a detective chief superintendent and associate professor at the Norwegian Police University College in Oslo and an author. He recommends that you should keep track of your investigation using a matrix. How does he explain the process? As each new nugget of information is obtained, you mark on the matrix what it means for each of the different possible explanations or hypotheses. The judgment symbols in the matrix have 3 different codes. The green plus sign means that the explanation is supported. A red minus sign means that an incoming fact opposes the hypothesis, whereas NA means that the information doesn't inform or have any bearing upon the hypothesis. The hypotheses that attract the most opposition or minus symbols can gradually be dismissed, while you move forward with the ones that receive more support. Your investigation should document all relevant hypotheses identified in the case, and the inquiry should seek to disprove each one. The last remaining hypothesis is probably the strongest theory, but as a true detective, you should ideally leave it up to others to make the final judgment. Another use for matrices is, of course, building models. We might as well start with this guy. He was trying to work out how to think about believing in God. He didn't really present his thinking in the form of a matrix, but this is how we know it today. Pascal wrote, "Let us weigh the gain and the loss in wagering that God is. Let us estimate these 2 chances. If you gain all. If you lose nothing." We can present it like this. So, if there is God and you believe in Him, if there is God but you don't believe in Him, if there is no God and you believe in Him, if there is no God and you don't believe in Him. Remember that this is only a model and of course it has its limitations. How would it change if you allowed more than one God, for example? If we look around, there are just too many examples of cool models built around matrices. Let's have a look at a few more. Now, one of my favorites. In time management, there is a concept of the Eisenhower matrix, which was popularized in the book The 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. The matrix is based on a quote that the former president included in his speech. "I have 2 kinds of problems, the urgent and the important. The urgent are not important, and the important are never urgent." How do you build a matrix from that? Typically, you would have 2 things, dimensions of something that you want to analyze. Here, importance and urgency of tasks. Commonly, you add their opposites, so in this case, things that are not important and not urgent. From this, we get the following matrix that we can use for thinking about how we spend our time or to quickly categorize incoming tasks. I definitely know where I spend too much of my time. Matrices can be more complicated and constructed differently. Gartner, an IT consulting company, is famous for publishing its market research, which groups different companies based on their ability to execute and the completeness of their vision, which are both graded on a scale. As a result, each company can fall within one of the quadrants: challengers, leaders, niche players, and visionaries. So it turns out you can build a whole consulting business around the matrix. Intelligence and security agencies use some version of a risk matrix like this one. On one axis you have the impact of the event, going from negligible to severe, and on the other axis you have the likelihood of the event, from things that are very unlikely to things that are very likely. The agents then try to classify different events based on the matrix above and plan accordingly. To give an example, a quote from David Omand, a former director of GCHQ, a British intelligence and security organization. "During my time as UK intelligence and security coordinator after 9/11, a mutated flu pandemic occupied the top right of the strategic notice risk matrix, as it posed the most lethal potential combination of impact and probability of all the many threats and hazards." Interesting. Finally, one last example. Let's see if we can spot the mental model that Chamath is talking about. Notice how natural and quick it is for him to judge businesses thanks to a simple matrix.
I have a very simple thing I draw on the box now to my team. I'm like, here's a 2x2 matrix, draw it out if you want, okay? This x-axis is capital light, capital heavy, x-axis. The y-axis is obvious, non-obvious. wherever you are, you want to be, whether you're obvious or non-obvious, you want to be in that capital light column. Think of where venture excels. Venture excels in obvious meets capital heavy. Look at scooters. It's not to make fun. Scooters is an exceptionally obvious business model, right? Well, you'd say, well, we had planes on charter 25 years ago through NetJets. We eventually had smaller planes on charter. Then we had buses on charter. Then we had limousines on charter. Then we had cars on charter. Then we had cheaper cars on charter. Then we were pooling cars. Then we had bicycles. I mean, you literally did not have to be as smart as you to take that trail of breadcrumbs and say, well, what's the quantum of transport that's smaller than a bicycle but greater than your feet? I don't know. Scooters?
Rollerblades.
Rollerblades. Then you have people like Elon, and he's like, well, I'm going to do the other thing, which is like capital heavy, non-obvious.
Rocket ships.
Cars.
Electric
right?
cars. Power walls.
Then I would say there's the rest of us. And I would say non-obvious or obvious, you're not going to know a priori, but capital heavy, capital light, you can control.
I hope that you'll agree that these simple visualizations are quite useful. Remember that if you want everyone to have the same mental model of a problem, the fastest way to do it is with a picture.